Thank you for joining us today. My name is Robin Sanders, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Solutions for Guidant Global. And I have a very special guest here with us today, Dr. Pamela Cohen, who is actually the President of WerkLabs, a division of the Mom Project. She has over 20 years of experience in the field predicting human behavior and outcomes for large corporations, think tanks, as well as nonprofits. She actually has her doctorate in sociology and has been with the Mom Project since its inception. She was one of four original employees, and now they have over 80. So, Dr. Cohen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. The first question is, we know that COVID has amplified stressors for working parents, specifically mothers. Can you share insights on how women and moms in particular were feeling pre-COVID?
Sure, absolutely. It's really interesting. Prior to COVID-19, we had administered a survey to over 3,500 working moms, and this was just prior. And from that, we could see that moms were particularly struggling with a few things. One was receiving support from their coworkers and organizations. And again, keeping in mind that this is prior, about 50% of the moms that were surveyed reported being extremely concerned about being judged by their coworkers for family-related decisions and commitments. And they also reported being extremely concerned about having flexibility in their work schedule. About 75% of the moms reported a lack of flexibility and also a lack of support in understanding the need for flexibility. And then finally, balancing home and work life, which we know is an ongoing issue. Even prior to COVID, about 83% of working moms said that maneuvering day-to-day schedules and logistics were extremely stressful for them.
That makes perfect sense. Hey, as a mom myself, I have been there. And
Yes,
continue,
yeah,
my
yeah.
two oldest are headed to college, so I'm on the downhill, but certainly understand that. So the next question is, based on the WerkLabs study, how has COVID affected the work experience for women and men?
Okay, that's a great question. So after COVID, during the pandemic, we fielded a survey to about 2,000 professionals, men and women, parents and non-parents from across the country, to determine how the pandemic and also the stay-at-home orders initially impacted everyone's employee experience. For men and for women, we see COVID undoubtedly and significantly affecting women more negatively than men overall. Um, Prior to COVID, we had seen that women tended to rate workplace accommodation lower than men generally. But post-COVID, and I'm talking about during the pandemic, women rank their employee experience on average about 15 points lower than men do. And just to put that in perspective, about 2 points would be a significant difference. So both went down on their scoring, but women 15 points lower than that. And we also see women indicate that they feel less productive, and also that they're more likely to leave their employer and less likely to recommend their organization as a place to work. We found that women report being about 46% more likely than their male counterparts to leave their employer within 1 year's time. So almost 2 times as likely. Women also performed lower than men in terms of their rating of measures of socio-emotional well-being. So not that they were necessarily performing worse, but that they rated their feelings of their performance less. And so essentially how supported and socially connected they felt at their organization really went down. In terms of parents and non-parents, we see that parents are more negatively impacted than non-parents, health notwithstanding. And it was interesting because we found that parents of one child tended to report being the most affected, more so than those of two or more. Now, that could be that they tended to be newer parents, parents of one children, they might have younger child, but also the parents of two or more children, they might provide a little more entertainment for each other. They might also be a little bit more independent, a little bit older. We also see that managers play a particularly important role to parents and then their workplace experience amidst COVID. So that more often than not, in our study, when parent employees comment about unsupportive managers, that manager tended to be a non-parent, unable or just not certain about how to understand the difficulty from working from home with kids during the pandemic. That doesn't mean that all managers who don't have children aren't supportive. It just means that they were more likely to be non-parents and not have that ability to understand that when you're home, it doesn't mean that you can focus on work. Then speaking more broadly about COVID-19, there seems to be a general consensus among employees on the need to be constantly available and online. Employees felt as though they should be working long hours. They still do, because there was no excuse not to be. So even when you use communication software, for example, WerkLabs at Mom Project, we use Slack. People feel compelled to, put up a salad emoji when they've gone out, or a sun emoji when they've gone out. And this tends to be true across the board. At our organization, we have a lot of support, and yet people still feel like they need to be on 24/7. We also had a lot of employees mention how COVID-19 really amplified and highlighted pre-existing concerns that I was talking about earlier. If they were already troubling practices being taken by managers and leadership, a lack of support, they just felt it even more acutely. Some, however, mentioned an opportunity to get away from toxic work environments. They felt some relief from being able to work from home, and some people reported that their mental health had never been better. That they were able to get away from a workplace where they hadn't been able to be productive. So there was an upside, and certainly people are reporting that upside of being able to work from home, not have a commute, and be able to focus.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been a remote worker for 10 plus years, and I can't imagine going back into the office. But all of the points lead back to employee engagement, and such an important thing for consider. So the last question is, where should organizations focus their attention to improve the overall experience for employees during this time? So back to that engagement.
That's a great question. And certainly we've been focusing a lot of attention on this. And really it breaks down to three factors that are extremely impactful for the employee experience, but also have a tendency to be a little bit underwhelming at organizations. First of all, organizational leadership. It's really important for leaders to get on the ground level. So more importantly and more specifically, action items are: keep employees in the know. Transparency is key. It's easy to forget that employees are not having day-to-day contact necessarily. And so they need those touch points, not too many touch points, but they need touch points to be able to stay in the loop. Also, don't just encourage people to take some time, take action. Actually set an example by being offline sometimes, by telling people not only that it's okay to be offline, but that they're offline sometime as well. That's really important. And also increasing conversations, touch points that can be done by leadership through a buddy system, but not exhausting the Zoom and other video communication forms. Sometimes it can be easy just to put something out over email that people can read, that's easy to digest, or something that's asynchronous so that they can watch it when they have time. Second is flexibility. Organizations need to embrace and implement flexibility, establish what it means to the organization now, and also begin conversations around the future, even if it's unknown. Employees want to know, and it's not just parents, non-parents as well. What are we thinking about in terms of return to work, and what is flexibility going to look like, and where will I need to be when? And also having workshops or Q&A forums to get feedback from employees, but also get feedback to them so people could see other people's questions and comments, and potentially be calmed by those, knowing that organizational leadership is thinking about them. And then finally, what we call holistic support, which means training managers, providing resources on how to directly support their direct reports, how many conversations is good, what they should be encouraging, what modified expectations should look like. Facilitating the creation of different types of support groups can be essential. So buddy systems, employee resource groups, book clubs, anything, maybe that's a little bit social as well. Some people have instituted even short happy hours, things like that, so that people do get a chance to still socialize. And then again, I know I've stressed this before, but urging employees to take some time offline to refresh and recharge. I know the biggest thing that I hear from people is, again, that they feel like they're online upwards of 18 hours a day answering questions. So all of those things brought together help give people peace of mind and give them time to recharge and be ready to go and be ready for next steps.
Yeah, fantastic. Really, really great information and something that I personally will take to heart. So thank you very much. Today we've been with Dr. Pamela Cohen with the Mom Project and president of WerkLabs. So Dr. Cohen, thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.